Hi, I'm Rachel and welcome back to Auxhart Gardening. In today's Harvest and Cook, I'm going to be showing you guys how to make my very favorite Mexican salsa. And since this is a harvest and cook, let's get to harvesting some tomatoes and peppers. So with tomatoes and peppers harvesting, I do prefer to use clippers rather than trying to just yank them off the vine. It just makes me feel safer that I'm not going to accidentally tear my fruit or tear up my plant as I'm going through. However, since I am filming and trying to pick tomatoes at the same time, I will not be using my clippers for most of these. That's not so bad. So, quick second to talk about tomatoes like this, whether or not you should pick them. It really depends quite a lot on your environment. So you can see that the top still hasn't turned yet, but the bottom is starting to get that nice rosy color that I want out of this tomato. You could easily just pick this right now, and that would be fine, and it would continue to ripen on the counter. Or you could even eat it and it would taste just slightly underripe. Not that bad, honestly. But if you live in a place where you're worried about birds or pests getting to your tomatoes, or if it's going to rain really hard very soon, that generally will dilute the flavor of your tomato. So maybe you would want to pick it sooner and then let it ripen inside so that it retains that sweetness of concentrated sugars that comes from being dried out for a few days. Since I'm not expecting rain today, I'm going to leave this one for another day. However, this one I probably am going to pull, even though it's a similar stage of ripeness, because I can see it starting to get sun scald here on the top, and I don't really want that to get any worse than it already is. So I'm going to go get my clippers actually for this one, since there's so many others on the vine, and we're going to harvest this one. There's also this one that is not quite ripe, but I am going to pick anyway because I'm starting to see a pretty big split along it. That's probably from a recent shower we had where generally when this happens, it's just that there's too much water coming into the fruit and it can't expand fast enough at the skin to account for that. And sometimes places like this, bacteria can get in and it can start to rot. And since it's already got some color on it, I'm going to go ahead and take it inside and let it continue ripening indoors. Alrighty, so I've got a bucket of tomatoes. Next, I need to get the hot peppers that I'm going to use for the salsa. So here I have a Buena Mulata pepper. Normally I would be using serrano peppers for this, but seeing as I don't have any ripe yet, I'm going to use my Buena Mulatas. So all of these start out purple, and then they'll turn brown and then red as they get riper, and they get spicier and spicier as they go. You can obviously choose how spicy you want your salsa, but I'm going to go with a couple of these and one green cayenne probably. So I know that plant was in shadow and it's hard to see, but this is kind of the varying stages of ripeness of the Buena Mulata. And it's really hard to predict exactly how spicy it'll be at each stage, so you really just have to taste a little bit and see for yourself what level it's at and what you want in your salsa. Oh my goodness, it's so hot out there today. I think it's, oh, what is it? It's 92, but in the sun you just can't help but sweat. Anyways, so here is the harvest that I got just now, and I am going to be combining some of the most ripe ones of those with tomatoes that I have harvested previously. Now, for this specific recipe, like I said, normally I would be using 2 or 3 serrano peppers, But since I don't have any of those ripe, I'm kind of trying to recreate that level of spicy with the peppers that I do have ripe, which are Buena Mulata and cayennes. I know a ripe cayenne would be too spicy, which is why I'm going with a green cayenne. And I'm gonna taste test them and kind of just make sure that they're at the level that I want. So all I'm gonna do to taste test, I'm not gonna take a big bite out of it. I'm just gonna use my fingernail to kind of pull the end off, just like that. And I'm going to touch it to my tongue. Okay, that one is not that spicy. Ooh, this one has quite a bit of capsaicin in it. Let's separate them out. This one doesn't have nearly as much capsaicin in it, which is actually interesting because you'll notice that it's quite a bit browner than this one. Like I said, with these ones you just have to taste to know. This one is red. Oh, yeah, that one is the spiciest so far. And then we've got our green cayenne. Gotta find a new spot on my tongue that I haven't burnt yet. That one's actually not as bad as the other two. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go with the green cayenne, the somewhat spicy Buena Mulata, and the not really spicy at all Buena Mulata. And then the other two we will save for something else. So for this particular recipe, you're gonna want about 3 medium-sized tomatoes. You don't have to worry about being too exact about it. If you know me, if you've seen me cook before, I'm not very exact. But something to note is that you will be keeping the skins on. Like, you're welcome to peel them if you want to, but I find that it's really unnecessary. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose some of my tomatoes that are more fluted, like this, because these tomatoes are much harder to peel than the ones that are smooth. And since them having the skin on them doesn't matter as much, I'm going to go ahead and choose the ones that are hard to peel for this recipe. Alright, so let's talk about the additional ingredients. Now I'm going to tell you here and as we're going through, but I'll also put it down below. So if you miss it right now, like don't worry about pausing it while you're cooking or anything like that. It'll all be down below. But you're going to want a medium onion. Again, if you like more onion, get a bigger onion. If you don't, get a smaller onion. I wish I could say I grew this onion, but unfortunately all of my onions are much smaller than this year. Sad. But did grow my garlic. You're going to want 2 or 3 cloves of garlic. Use your better judgment. There's a large variation in sizes of cloves of garlic. So again, if you like more garlic, add more garlic. If you don't, don't. We're also going to want some cilantro, some lime juice, some olive oil, and the final ingredient, which is going to sound a little weird, is chicken bouillon cubes, or the chicken bouillon powder. This recipe actually came to me from somebody who grew up in Mexico, and apparently this is the way that they've always made it, and I think it's really awesome, so that's what I'm gonna do. I know it sounds weird, but it's gonna taste awesome. So chicken bouillon cubes or the powder. Before I start slicing any veggies, I'm gonna go ahead and set my oven to broil because we are gonna roast the tomatoes and peppers. These are the 3 tomatoes that I have chosen for the recipe. I'm just going to core them and then slice them in half. And with the peppers, all I'm going to do is cut the tops off. Now, if you're worried about it being too spicy, you can go ahead and pull out the seeds, slice them in half, but I'm just going to leave them intact and cut the stems off. Alrighty, so here are the veggies that I'm going to roast. I just peeled and sliced the onion in half, cut the tops off the peppers, and peeled the garlic but left it whole. All of this is going to go under the broiler. I'm going to start with 5 minutes and then take a look. Alrighty, and in the meantime, while everything is in the oven, I'm going to assemble the rest of the ingredients in my blender. I have some very wilty cilantro from the store. Unfortunately, I cannot grow cilantro here during this time of year, so this is what I got. I mean, I didn't buy it like this. This has been in the fridge for a few days. But we're just going to use a few sprigs of cilantro. So that's about how much cilantro I used. You can, again, more or less depending on how much you like cilantro. I have lime juice in a bottle because I am too cheap to buy real limes all the time. And this makes it easy to just have them around all the time. I'm gonna do about a tablespoon of lime juice and the same amount of olive oil. Right, so this is the chicken bouillon. I just have store brand. It's the powder, it's not the cubes. If you're using the cubes, 1 cube will work. For the powder, I'm using 1 teaspoon. Lastly, you'll just salt and pepper to taste. I'm probably going to do about a teaspoon of salt and as much pepper as I can grind out of my pepper grinder before I get tired. Alrighty, so the peppers and the garlic have a slight char to them, so I'm going to go ahead and take them off. But the tomatoes and onions don't really have any of that yet, so I'm going to put them in for a little bit longer. Alrighty, so I gave them 4 more minutes, and you can see they're starting to get a little bit of char. The tomatoes are just starting to kind of ooze their juices, and at this point I'm going to let them rest for a couple of minutes and then put them in the blender with everything else. Kata, my kitten, has been helping me cook, or rather biting my ankles as I cook. Kata, hi. She's getting so big already. Now I'm just gonna blend until smooth. Look at that salsa. Beautiful. Alrighty guys, well that is my absolute favorite salsa recipe. If you wanted to make it prettier when you served it, maybe chop up some more of that fresh cilantro, put it on top. Otherwise, just dig in. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please do like and subscribe if you did in fact like this video. Share it with your friends. And until next time, happy gardening.